My next guest was born in San Jose, Costa Rica. He moved to Maryland at the age of 9. Played for the Terps, University of Maryland, and was taken by DC United 6 overall in the Super Draft. From there to DC United, with DC United, from there it was on to the Portland Timbers, and you'll know plenty of stories from there. But from Portland, off to Portugal, then to Brazil, then back to MLS, New York City FC, onto Sporting Kansas City, and he finishes off as a Portland Timber. I'm chatting with, of course, Rodney Wallace. Rodney, welcome on. When I mention all that, when I go through your fantastic
Thank you for having me, Ross. Thank you.
When I go through that career, what are your thoughts?
Damn, I did all that. Where did time go? Yeah, it goes by fast, and everyone tells you that when you first start, like, oh, it's gonna fly by, and you're like, yeah, whatever, bro. Like, get out of my face, old head. But it's funny because I became that old head, and I'm like, guys, this shit goes by so fast. But it does not. It's cool. It's cool to realize that I was able to impact the game in so many different places. So it's great for me.
Why Portland? You're finishing off your time in Portland. So let's start at the end. Why was that important for you to finish off with Portland?
For me, there was no other place that. So I really didn't get to have a last game to retire type thing. Like, this is my last game that I'll play as a professional. I got injured, had 2 surgeries in 2019, and I never really got the chance to have that one game that last game that said, okay, this is the last match as a professional. So, which is okay. I had 2 hip surgeries just because I couldn't play at the level that I wanted to anymore. So I had career-ending surgeries. And then I thought about retirement, and I'm like, how do I want to retire? Do I just want to announce something and thank the clubs that I played with or the memories I had? And I was like, you know what? I want to retire with the team that gave me the most back, or the team that I felt the closest connection with, the team that I really felt a genuine bond with, not only the organization but the fans and the players, and it just feels like it's one. So for me, I just wanted to be a Portland Timber at the end of my career.
You say that it's relatable, and that's something I've always attributed with you. You're relatable, and you took me right there just quickly with me into my own career, and you want that last game, right? You want that American football Rudy being shared off of the park. And not everybody, I struggled with that for years, not having that one game where it just, you had that big moment. And I mentioned you being relatable. What was one of the biggest things I remember from your time in Portland? You were what I call the connector. And for all the different cultures in the locker room, everybody loved Rodney. Everybody was connected through you. So you the culture, which was so important. We know what you did on the pitch, but I really want to take into what Rodney Wallace was outside the pitch as well. Did you feel that? Why was that important for you to connect guys from different cultures?
I think I started to see the impact that I was making off the field. The impact that I was making off the field became something that I could actually focus my attention on, because when things would go wrong on the field, it meant that something in the locker room didn't seem right. So for me to be able to speak Spanish, and speak English, connect with just different pockets that all teams have, I thought that, and it came natural. It wasn't like I was trying to connect with one group or the other. It just came natural to me, and that's how we would link the group. I would say I was quote unquote the bridge, and sometimes there were language barriers. So this guy would speak only Spanish, and the other dude would speak English. So the message wasn't getting there. So then that's when I guess I would come in and and sort of smooth all of that out, so everything was out on the table, and that's how we became successful. I think that especially in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
there were so many different factors of that season that people don't even know how much we struggled, and there were so many different things happening, and I think that being able to keep the group together with the banter and the jokes and all of that, it was helpful. And I think that, that was a good turning point in our season. I think that it was against LA, and things just kind of started to take a turn for the better.
When you look at that with 2015, you've traveled around. Can you put into words how special that group was? And it's interesting with LA, you felt that was a big turning point for the team as you went on that fabulous run.
Yeah, I think LA was the one game that really put us into that rhythm. And I remember Caleb speaking about it. He brought the board out and just started to write down all the teams that we had to play. I don't know how many. I think we had like 11, more than 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a turning point for us, and it was a statement. And that's how, and I feel like we made a conscious decision to either go one way or the other, and we did not want this season to just end the way that it was going. So we went the opposite direction, and we tightened things up, and it was a wonderful run. And there was no ego, there was no individualism after that. I felt like everybody was really down for the cause, and everyone was very vulnerable at times because of how much we held ourselves accountable.
That run you've given me before we jumped on here and started recording, I said, Rodney, I'm sure the influence you've had is so vast for my influence, and obviously outside of our relationship on the broadcast, you've given me some great games and calls to put across air. And one of them,
Thank you.
I'll never forget, Sporting Kansas City. The team, it was struggled to beat Tim Melia and at Sporting Kansas City in general. But your goal, the way you settled it and the toe poke, and I can still remember, it gives me chills just thinking the feeling in that stadium that day. And it was a toe poke from you. Yeah, got it away quick. And I remember my call saying, and the team finally beat Tim Melia. And you ran off for that goal. You scored, according to the transfer market, you scored 32 goals. How big was that goal? Because I felt like during that run, you kept breaking down barriers as a team, and that was a big barrier, I felt.
Yeah, that was a big goal for me, because that season I literally I think I scored one goal the whole season, and it was something that stayed on my back. Obviously, I went from the last season, was it 2014, I had come back from my ACL, and as soon as I got into the field, I was scoring. So I think I got like five goals towards the later part of the previous season. So 2015, I'm expecting to really get started and get going with the goals and whatnot, and it didn't happen that way. And when that happens to a player, you start to kind of panic and think about, why am I not scoring? And players go through droughts, but for me, it became something that I had to figure out how to turn around. And I figured that, why don't I just change my role? Instead of focusing so much on my scoring, why don't I do the things that I'm good at? Why don't I do them better? So if it was tracking back defenders, if it was, at times playing more defensively from the midfield, and at times just figuring out how I could help the team if I wasn't scoring. So for me to score that goal versus SKC in the playoffs was almost like a full circle moment. And I remember my celebration. I went like this because
I remember that.
Yeah, because it's one of those things like, now you see me, now you don't type thing. There's so many emotions when you watch players and their celebrations. It's because of something, and that for me, that was the moment where I was like, okay, oh no, I remember I went like this. I think it was like time. It was like about time. For me, it was like, Rodney, it was about time you scored, but it was also like, it's playoff time, so it was a special goal, and I remember Valerio was right next to me, and if I wouldn't have gotten it, he would have trapped it. But um, definitely something that I'll never forget. And I ended up playing against Tim Milia, with Tim Milia a couple years later, and I
Did you
gave him a
talk?
concussion.
Did you talk about that with your goal scoring? I always find that interesting when teammates, when former opposition, they come together as teammates, and what that dynamic is.
Yeah, well, Tim, that game, I believe, it was Tim.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
right.
in a I
I
was in
was
a
wondering
breakaway,
with the concussion.
and
That's right. I was
and I
blanking right quick, but yeah,
exactly, and then I tried to poke it around him,
yeah.
and I think my knee hit his head, or his head hit my foot. That's how I'll put it, and took him out of the game. And that's when I think John came into goal for them.
John
What
Kempen, yeah.
Camping, yeah, whatever happened to that situation, I don't know. But when I got to the locker room at Sporting, I was like, Tim. The first thing I did was like, Tim, I'm sorry, I didn't mean the concussion.
What I would say, Tim Mealy, I was a teammate with him at Rochester Rhinos, and what a top guy. I feel like I
What a guy.
got to get that in, and I love watching his career. For you, then the goal in the final, and you got beer doused all over you. Did you smell like alcohol? I've never
I
asked you this.
smelled
Did
the
you smell
beer.
like
Yeah,
alcohol
I
for
smelled like beer the whole
rest of the
game. Smell like beer, bro. Seriously.
Were you surprised when I mean, after you scored the goal,
I
which
was
was a
shocked that
terrific header goal at the back stick, right? But
I was
were you
shocked that they
surprised?
were throwing beers. I didn't know that this could happen in America. They're really out here throwing things to the players, and it was to me. If you look at the celebration, I'm cracking up, like trying to dodge these beers because they're so mad. And I'm like, bye haters. They're so mad.
Rodney, from MLS Cup, national team, World Cup, 269 matches for you in all competitions that you played. What stands out? Is it one of the ones we've talked about? What was the most meaningful, or what was your best game?
I think the 2015 was the most meaningful. I wouldn't say it was my best game, but it was a game that changed my whole life. So, and it changed the whole organization, the whole club. So I'd say that that's the most important goal that I've scored in my career. I wouldn't say it wasn't also the prettiest, but being in the final and being able to sneak around the defender to put it far post, it's a good way to kind of stamp the MLS Cup. So I would say that goal, I think it covers a lot of ground for me.
In terms of best skilled goal, you scored 32 in your career. What do you look at? Is it same story, or the highly skilled? I can remember a few of them in my time and following your career.
That's I right now, obviously, I can't. Of course, I can't remember any of my goals. So, I really enjoyed the first game at Providence Park. The Timbers played at Providence Park at the time, right? Or was it Geldwin at the time?
Geldwin. Yep.
Was it something else before Geldwin?
It was PGE Park, and that's going back to my.
Wasn't it PGE when we that year, 2011?
Oh, you're digging into my. It may have been. It may have just transferred over.
Yeah.
I'll wait to see if our producer might chime in, because our producer Mark Kostick has been. We'll see in the chat, and I'll correct that as we go if it's not PGE.
But yeah, that
game.
night, the first game, I remember John Spencer came into the locker room and he gave us a speech, and he said, this is a moment that will forever stay in the Timbers history, because it was the first home game that we had as a MLS club.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at everyone. He said, who's going to be the one that gets stamped, in the record books here? Who wants to score that first goal? Who wants to do this and this? And in my head, I'm like, I want to definitely score and just make sure that I put myself in those history books, because it pumps you up in an individual way, but obviously you're performing for the club and for the team. So you want to definitely be on the front foot, trying to figure out how to score, trying to figure out how to make sure you're doing your job so you can win the first game at home. And it was drizzling, it was raining,
Oh
and you know that feeling when it starts raining
yeah. Yes.
at on the field
And they're
is
still watering the pitch.
we're winning this game no matter what. Even if you're losing 2-0, once it starts raining, it's game over. So I remember, I think it was off a corner, and I was outside the box, and I just took it one touch, smashed it in past Sean Johnson,
Yeah.
and that was it. And then in my head, I'm like, there it is. I wanted to make sure that I was in the history books, and there it is. So my first game at Geldwin was special.
Yeah. It was officially Geldwin, a producer, chiming in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark Kostick. So for you, I love that you're taking us into John Spencer and the motivational talk. You've had some great managers in your time as well. Can you take me, whether it's to do with a coach's speech before or whether it's a bit of banter with the guys? As I've said, you've made a lot of friends in your time. Can you give us one story, best story out of the locker room that you experienced, that you shared?
With involving a coach.
It can be a coach, it could be a player,
I
bit of banter, whatever you like to take us to.
Yeah, I got a couple. But speaking of John Spencer, I will go back to 2011 or 2000 was the beginning of 2012, I believe. And he was still our manager, and he would play. John was nice. He was nice. He was a competitor,
Good player,
so
wasn't he? Yeah.
great player still. I don't know if he
Yeah.
still plays, but back then, he would still get into practice. And this guy just has his personality is just strong at all times.
Yeah.
And when he would play, he would get stuck in. And at the time, I wasn't playing that much. Like he was benching me, obviously. And as a player, you're not happy when you're not as happy as you can be when you're not starting. So I remember he was on the field. I don't know, we were playing either a possession game or to goal. And John it was like a 50-50, and I look up and it's our coach, and I'm like, this man, I'm taking him down. So I just two-footed him for the ball. I got all ball. I went like this. I got all ball. And John Spencer's on the ground, and he gets up. He's got turf, the little rubber beads all over his face and his forehead. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's how you want to play? Okay, we'll see about that." So you could just tell that he just completely transformed from coach to player to villain. And it was a moment I'll never ever forget in my life, how mad he was, and I was so happy that I got to two-foot him.
Did that keep you out of the team for a while more, or did you get back in?
I got back in.
Those stories, and I feel like that contributes to success. You have to have that fiery side. It all can't be roses and rainbows all the time.
Exactly.
You have to be able to go through that. For you, then, I'm going down this theme of best roommate.
Best roommate? I'd say on the road.
On the roads? Yeah.
Diego Chara.
I knew you roommates with Chara. I was hoping.
100%. He was
it was
just knowledge, just learning from him, and you create a bond with somebody on a different level, because now you're on the phone with your family, and he's on the other side, and he's on the phone with his family. So then you start to understand this is what's happening at home, yada yada. Like if one of our wives is pregnant or something, it's most likely the roommate that finds out first. It's like, hey bro, she's pregnant, yada yada. So things like that you start to share with your roommate, that people they might not know how close you can get to a person. But I would say that he's definitely my favorite roommate on the road, for sure. Just super chill. We had a good system. We enjoyed watching the same stuff, and sometimes we just wanted to do our own thing. But we had great chemistry, and understanding of each other. So very, very, very good experience to room with Diego Chara.
we're taping this before you do reconnect with players in person. For you, what are you looking forward to the most when you when you get around the team, when you get around the guys, when you're back? Assuming you're not back in Portland yet, or are we chatting from you being in Portland?
No. I'll be there tomorrow.
What are you looking forward to the most?
So I'm like I said, my wife asked me that yesterday, and I said I just want to actually enjoy each moment as it is. I'm not focused on I want to do this, I want to do that. I think that whatever it is that's happening, I just want to make sure that I take it in because it's such a precious. They're all precious moments to me, and I want to go through each one of them and not like fast forward or think ahead of what I'm doing next. But I'm just looking forward to being around that comfort that I had when I was a player at the club. I just felt so connected with even the colors and going to the stadium and the like walking down 35 stairs to get to the locker room.
35.
I don't know how many, but you know how when you get into through the door and then you don't take the elevator, you just walk down the stairs. just basically feeling everything and really just capturing moments, but seeing the guys for sure will be exciting. It'll be good to reconnect with the OGs that were there when I was there.
And it's amazing that the names, the OGs that are around still.
Yeah, and then the game, and then playing Seattle on Sunday, that's gonna be special. So I can't wait for that match. It's gonna be intense. That's always, and I'm sure that the fans are looking forward to it because it's Seattle. The players are, and it's just how it is, that different feeling when it's Seattle week. So there's already an energy there, and I just want to go and take that all in.
I feel like when you look at timing and a time to finish off, I feel like you couldn't have timed it any better than this timing.
It's not insane, yeah, insane. Just to cap it off with hopefully a good win versus Seattle, can't beat it.
I'm hesitant to take you out of the moment because that's where your mind is, and I very much admire the living in the present. But I do know you shared with me just briefly offline what is next after kicking the soccer ball, after closing that one chapter as Rodney Wallace as the footballer, as the soccer player. What's next for you, Rodney? I feel like you have so many different areas you could go into.
No, yeah. So I started my CBD company, Rewind by Rodney Wallace. So that launched in 2000. That launched in 2020, January 1st, actually, and I've been entertained with that, busy with that. My wife and I have been just plugging away and really understanding what it is like to grow a business and gaining more knowledge on cannabis and CBD. So being able to help others is now our big win. That's my goal right there. When somebody writes a review and says that does your CBD completely change my life? I feel so much better, blah blah blah. That's exactly what I'm going after now. Those are the moments that give you that jolt of, okay, now let's figure out how we can make the product better on a daily basis. So that's what that's what my attention's on. My attention is also on broadcasting. I've recently got on with CBS, and then after that I did Gold Cup with Fox. So just gaining reps and feeling more comfortable in the studio, which I love. And now is something that you also have to practice. You have to, just like anything else, you just have to develop a good skill set. So I'm starting to understand that world, and I respect how difficult it is. And I say that people are quick to judge on a commentator or something like that, but even myself before I got into it, but it's not easy to deliver a message. And as a player, when you already know you played bad, and then having somebody else say maybe it wasn't his night, it's good to be able to be on the side that I can watch the game. And now if I want to say something about a player, I'm going to say it in a way that he also understands that that's what's happening, and I'm not going to hit on them, basically. So focusing on that, which I love, and just taking it one step at a time. I don't want to be overwhelmed by too many different activities. And I'm working on a podcast as well, but everything has its space. So I'm not like, I got to do this, I got to do that. I retired for the purpose of me enjoying my own space. So it's been beautiful. After playing, I feel great.
Yeah, I watched your coverage of Costa Rica. You looked sharp, you sounded sharp, and it was a
I'm
great
trying, man.
It was a great fit in the presence to that where you said you feel great. That finding that next thrill. So that's you found that live TV.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing. I think fans will enjoy hearing that. We'll be seeing and hearing a lot more of you.
Yeah, no, that's the goal. I want to see how I can stretch this, because I don't want it to be an appearance type thing. I'm here and I'm there. I actually want to dedicate a good amount of my time on it, and I'm sure that you love it. You know what I mean? You love being that person that delivers the information that people want to hear, just because of the knowledge that you've had and how close you are to the club. So you're on, and you know exactly at what moment to say something and when to not. So it's all a craft, and it feels good to be at the bottom of something and having to work your way up. That's another, just like you have to reconstruct yourself in a whole different way. So that's amazing.
If I can, to finish this off with my own Rodney Wallace story, and this one I want to take fans away from the pitch. I'll remember waiting for you, and I'm glad we're apart because I don't want you to be 2-footing me like you've done in the past for a little bit of banter.
Careful.
I remember waiting on you when I was starting out my broadcasting a couple times, and what's interesting to me is that you never wanted to really be out there in the media. You just wanted Rodney Wallace as a soccer player, that you didn't necessarily want to do interviews. And I always remember I haven't really gotten to know Rodney. And then I'll never forget one of my first times, because you worry about that, what you say on the broadcast. So I did anyways. And I like to think that as long as you're honest, now as I learn over the years, I'll never forget you saying to me, can I have a word? And I thought, all right, Rodney, I've barely even chatted to Rodney before. And you just looked at me and you took me aside and you said, I think you're doing a pretty good job. And I remember Rodney from there as a young broadcaster starting out and making that transition from playing. I felt 10 feet tall. And as a broadcaster, now you realize you can't be affected by what others think, but we're all human. And
Exactly.
you made me feel 10 feet tall that day. And I realized that was one of our first interactions, that Rodney Wallace, there's something special about him. We've come to know how special you are. Stories out of the locker room, we realize how special you are. You've had a special career, Rodney, but I know there's more special things to come. I can't thank you enough for jumping on here, and I can't congratulate you enough on what a terrific career.
Thank you, Ross, for having me. And look, you're went from TV, now you're doing the radio, the podcast. So, it just takes time, and I'm sure now you're just, it's natural for you. But at the time, I felt like I could see that you were just improving at it, and obviously you just gotten started. And I was like, man, this dude he's doing this thing, and it sometimes people, only players sometimes get other ones that get compliments. The coach doesn't get complimented, the media people don't get complimented. The equipment managers don't get the same love as players. So it's always good to make somebody feel good in whatever the craft it is that they're on. So for me to see your progress, and I just wanted to let you know genuinely, like, you're doing your thing. Like, there's no other way to look at it when you're doing TV or you're doing radio. It's you. If you think about somebody else, then you're gonna deliver the message maybe the wrong way, or you're not gonna be yourself.
Absolutely. That means a lot, the words, Rodney. And
for sure.
I know with your career, it's meant so much to everybody else. I hope you soak it in over the next couple of days. I hope the Timbers deliver to you a big win against Seattle, of course, as well.
It's not about me. It's not about me. They got to get it done, though. It's not about me. Just get it done.
Well, to really cap it off, congratulations. Thank you for the stories, for the
Nah,
time. I hope
thank
there's
you.
part 2, part 3, part 4 with you along the way, because I think
We
there's
might
more
have
stories to
to.
come.
We got a lot to cover.
There you have it. Rodney Wallace. Nice to say, a Portland Timber. Welcome back.
Thank you, Ross. Appreciate you.